This is the Tesla Model 3 Performance, and it's a 2021 car, but it's not a facelift. Tesla don't do a facelift type approach. They just make iterative changes to their cars as they release them. So there are some changes over the original, first out the door Model 3, but Tesla will just continually to change the car as time goes on. It's not like BMW that say, right, halfway through the development life cycle, we'll have what they call a life cycle impulse LCI car and change a few things and ship it out. Tesla are just continually changing. The same way as they do with software. I suppose the software company approach. So, not all Model 3s are created equal, but I'll tell you a bit about them anyway, because some people have issues with Tesla. And I was hearing that over and over again since I last drove one, and then I had some other electric cars, the Ioniq 5, pop-out banner, you can have a look at my review of that. The Mustang Mach-E as well, there's another review you can have a look at. And it's easy to get jaded by all this conversation. Then I actually stepped back into a Model 3, and I've had this car for a week, and then I'm really quite smitten. But let me try and quantify that, because it is actually a bit of a subjective process as well. But this is a product. Electric cars are products, and this is a great product. But first of all, let's talk about the range of cars you have. So you have the Performance flashing at me there, which this car is. This sits at the top of the range, and it is about 60 grand for your £60,000. You get the most accelerative car probably on the market today. So 60 in 3.1 seconds. Nothing is going to touch it at that price point. And the way it delivers that power, it's about 450 horsepower. The traction it can get, that's a very repeatable performance. I don't think there's anything else that I've driven that can deliver that power to the road so successfully and so fuss-free. Moving on down the range then, if you don't want to spend 60 grand and you don't want to get that level of performance, you can get at the bottom level the Standard Range Plus, which is a rear-wheel drive only car, one motor at the rear. It's about £42,000 and has a range of about 300 miles and does 60 in about just over 5 seconds. Then they have the long range car, which has a range of about 360 miles. It's about 50 grand and it's dual motor and does 60 in about 4.5. All quick cars, and no doubt about it, you notice that when you're driving all of them. As with all electric cars, the delivery is just unbelievable. But the looks seem to be the problem with Tesla. If you watched my Mustang video, towards the end of it I started talking about, this is the Mustang Mach-E, what's in a name and why did Ford use the Mach-E name. Let's talk about this. The T badge. People say, oh, badge snobbery, badge isn't important and all the rest, and then they probably had BMWs for the last 10 years. Of course, badge means so much. That's why use of Mustang was so divisive. But Tesla, I had a dad bring his young child up earlier in the week to see this car and get a photo in front of it because he wanted to tell his school friends that he had sat in a Tesla and stood in front of a Tesla. This was a big thing. So, despite what you might think of the froggy front end, it doesn't matter. Tesla have done the McDonald's thing. They've Happy Mealed this thing out. There's a whole new generation of people that want their parents to buy a Tesla. We're just passengers in this whole thing. That's incredible. Let's talk about the looks though. Front end. It is pretty basic here. There's no grills because of course it's electric. It likes to flash at me. But it just makes this front end very plain, this sort of frog look. We do have a front trunk though. It's very useful. This facelift, this later generation of car, has the Uber Turbine Wheels on the Performance. These are 20s. Used to run Michelin PS4s, now runs P0s. I think the Michelin's a better tyre. The PS4 is what I have on my GR Yaris, and I had P0s on one of my Lotuses. Didn't really rate them. Don't get me wrong, they're still a good tyre, still a good premium tyre, but they're just nothing like the sport range that Michelin have out. But I think the wheels look great. Oddly enough, they have this turbine fan look, which I think is awesome. But the face is the same on this side as it is on the other side. So the turbine looks like it's going forward on this side, but looks like it's going back on the other side. Some sided wheels should have went on there. Panoramic roof in sort of two pieces. You have a bar inside the car here, but that's fine, makes the cabin super airy. Black trim rather than chrome, far better than the chrome trim. It's smart looking. The door handles, I think on the earlier car were chrome and now they're black. Black on black, in the dark. You're a bit of a faff trying to find the handle, because the handle you push in and pull out. But first world problems. In the side repeater here, we camera, part of the Sentry system for the car as well. Profile wise, it's probably quite smart looking. I think surprisingly this car has no privacy glass, although you can see in the roof, on the panoramic roof, there is some sort of tint there, but there's nothing in the back, which is interesting, but that's fine. Makes the car nice and bright. Nice big calipers. Brembo supply the calipers on these cars, but they're quick, need good brakes. Spin it around and take a look in the back. So we've turned the car around, and the back end, the performance car has this carbon fibre lip spoiler on the boot lid, but apart from that, it looks pretty much the same as all the other cars, bar wheels, brakes, this bit of trim. Otherwise the cars do look very similar, and you're starting to see a lot of these on the road too. I'm sure this is a very familiar vantage point, the back end of a Model 3. Huge boot. You can fit loads of stuff in there, lots of place, lots of storage, nice big deep storage bin in there, loads of space for cables, and of course it has the front and electric boot lid. And it's a great job. But you're starting to see lots of these, because these are not outselling everything, but you take the 3 Series type segment, which is maybe starting to die a death anyway because of SUVs, but you take that premium level saloon. Tesla are selling as many of these in the States anyway as BMW are selling 3 Series. And that's unbelievable. So things are on the rise for the sales of Tesla. They're now in Boucher Road as well, but it's a very nondescript place compared to some of the big places, because the whole buying experience of a Tesla, even from the dealership to online and all the rest, and it's not even really a franchise, it's owned directly by Tesla, it's just totally different. And the other manufacturers, I would say, do they have to catch up? They're in a panic. This video, the rest of this video is going to be a bit different today, because obviously I'm going to take the car for a drive, and I'll show you a bit inside the car and stuff before I do that. But I'm meeting Mark McCall from the Electric Vehicle Association of Northern Ireland. He is a Tesla owner, but we're going to take this car out. We'll talk a bit about it on camera. Separately, we're going to talk about the charging situation and living with an EV in Northern Ireland as part of the Soul to Scene podcast, which we run as well. So search the Soul to Scene podcast on whatever your pod provider is. Hopefully, same sort of time as this video comes out, we should have the podcast up within a few days, because it's not only a Tesla or a Mustang Mach-E or a Kona or Ioniq 5 or something like that, but it's just generally what's it like to live here in Northern Ireland. For example, a Tesla in Northern Ireland, we don't have any superchargers here. But then, as the point I've made before, we're just a wee country. This car has a real world range. It's always showing about 300, 310 miles. And even with using some of that performance, I'm getting 90% of that. That's incredibly usable. Anyway, a wee bit more about the car, and then we'll get on the road. I'm just about to start filming over here. But best thing about some of these electric cars, Tesla do it really well, is get the app out. There's no reason I should be suffering on a cold morning like this, get the app out, flick down to the climate control whilst I'm still in the house, turn it on. You'll probably hear the blowers and stuff, and there we go. And I've got the heated seat on, I've got my heated steering wheel on. Lovely. We'll have to turn it all back off again, or you'll not be able to hear me. But this is what it's all about in the Model 3. It's this cabin, which there's just nothing else like it on the market. You get in, you slap your phone down on the Alcantara clad wireless charging pad, close the door, use the right hand stalk, flick it down or flick it up to reverse, down into drive and go. Very, very simple. It's actually, once you get used to it, it's better than the Mackey's knob. It's better than the plastic shaver thing on the Ioniq 5. It's just very simple. And everything in here is very simple. That can be kind of off-putting. Discombobulating, great word. Because the button count's so low. But it's all about this big landscape screen. Everything you need is in there. Everything is quick to get to. You do have some controls on the steering wheel, and of course, if you like my last video, it's still winter time here, but heated steering wheel, that was one of the things, along with the black trim and all the rest. Heated steering wheel is appeared in the later cars as well, which, as you all know, I love. But indicators, drive control, the wipers are just pressed by a button here. Everything else is in the screen. I think I'll talk in detail when I'm with Mark, and we'll drive through the screen. I'll let him drive through the screen so I'm not distracted, but there is a lot in there. Most importantly, software updates recently have meant that the screen has like a blind spot camera, which the Ioniq 5 had, and I thought was brilliant. And I was like, oh, the Teslas don't have this. But Tesla just dumped it down on a software update, and now it does. You can also pin your most used apps and things like that. So yes, you have to hit a few buttons, but once you get the car set up, away you go. Because even you have to set the height of the steering wheel or your mirrors, you have to do it through 2 taps or 3 taps to get to the menu option. But once it's set up, away you go. No keys, no fobs. There is a card fob you can slide down here, but I've just paired the card on my phone, so I don't need anything else. And when I just want to leave the car, I just lift my phone, get out, walk away, and it locks itself. It's great. The glass house is amazing. This front window, it is like sitting in a van, because the rake of that, you don't see the front of the car really, you just see road in front of you, and it just makes it so easy just to pick out everything on the road very, very clearly. There's nothing else impinging your view. People don't think about things like that. The design in this car is very well thought out. Even the materials and stuff now, this all used to be piano black. It's now this sort of much more matte material, so it doesn't get scuffed and stuff like that. The feeling of the materials is, okay, it's this, whatever the vegan stuff is, but the seats are very comfortable and feel good. And anyone else who hasn't really sat on a Tesla or understood it and sat on it, just thought, yeah, this feels like 60 grand's worth of car. Tesla this, Tesla that. This is a well screwed together vehicle. Even this, which is this wood here, it's not like the old Rovers of old. That is actually a nice piece of the dash. It feels good, it looks good. You find people coming in who are into this sort of stuff, stroking and go, oh. I'm like, yeah. And I forgot how good this was, and that Tesla have just incrementally taken on any criticisms of the original Model 3 and just tweaked it in sensible ways. It probably hasn't cost them much more to do it. Okay, a wee bit of tooling and stuff, but sure. Anyway, it's time I went and collected my passenger. We talked Teslas, and then don't forget about the podcast. One thing worth pointing out, frameless windows. Love them in my Yaris, love them in this. Perfect. So we're in the car and I'm here with Mark McCall from EVANI, so that's electric. That's nothing to do with extra vehicular activity.
No, Electric Vehicle Association Northern Ireland.
Yeah, and Mark, you're a prior Tesla owner as well. You've had a Model 3 in the past. You had a Standard Range Plus car.
Yes, Standard Range Plus, June 2019. Just sold it in October 21.
So you had a couple of years.
2.5 years nearly, yeah.
And you've been in the performance as well, so you know what it's like. So if we've just been talking here about, we're just grabbed a coffee about the differences over the years. So your Standard Range Plus compared to this, so different interior. Your car had the piano black.
Yep, this is the facelift, so different interior, some different door trims here, and centre console probably is one of the biggest changes. I think there's a headlight redesign as well. So
yeah, was it Matrix headlights or something they put into it? But I think I was watching a Carwow video and they said they haven't got the software done for that. But again, the software could be done by now because the over-the-air updates just seem to fire stuff in.
Well, that's it. Whenever we got the car, things like the dash cam system weren't there. That just arrived as an over-the-air update. So that's one of the big advantages. Obviously, people talk about the lack of buttons here, but the fact that everything's on the screen means they can make all these changes then, and you can add features pretty easily.
Well, hopefully the camera behind us will pick it up, but we now have these 3 dots, so you can actually drag and drop apps, which is very handy. So to pin them to the bar at the bottom here, I think that's a new thing as well, isn't it?
Yes, so this version 11, I didn't have this. I sold the cars, say, in October time, so this is just come out in December, I think. Mixed reviews probably. Some things are better, some things aren't. I think you used to have the heated seat controls right here in the bottom. Now you've got to go into climate control to hit do that. So
climate button and then pick my seat here to heat it.
But I think Uncle Elon has taken on board the criticism and he's going to make a few changes. So you'll see those things sorted out over the months ahead.
And he's put. I love a heated steering wheel, and I've went on and on and on about the heated steering wheel in the Maggie, but that's one of the other facelift, and we call it facelift. It's not, that's iterative changes that these guys have put in. But look, we'll get on the road here.
Okay.
Anyway, I just love how effortless it is to move off on the stock. I was talking about this in the video earlier. Just a couple of clicks, the mirrors drop automatically for you when moving off, which normally a mirror would drop if you were just reversing into space, and it would be in the left hand side, but it was quite handy there on the corner. And then we've got the blind spot cam as well. I indicate here.
Yeah,
you can see the corner, which the Ioniq 5 had before, and then of course Tesla's like, well, we have the cameras, so we'll just do the update.
That's it. I think there's a little bit of talk, that people would like to see this maybe moved to the top or moved up a bit. I think, again, something that we'll probably see happen, but definitely very handy.
As an owner, do you see people saying, well, such and such has this feature, can you bake it into the software? And then Tesla...
Absolutely. So things like the dash cam system, that was a tweet from memory. Some of the owners tweeted Musk and said, we've got all these cameras on board, can they not be recording? So that was added. And dog mode, if you're a dog owner and you want your car kept a certain temperature, when your dog's there, that's all there. So all these things, certainly a lot of them are thought up by owners and Tesla ads. And then some strange things I would have to say, you've got they're known for all the toy box stuff and the fart mode and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Whereas waypoints have only just been added this year, after being requested for a long, long time.
So this is add stops on the sat nav.
Yeah. You could only just put one destination in up until recently. Now you can now add waypoints.
Oh, fantastic! What are you doing? Well, they're going down the drive. 10:56, get a move on. Church starts at 11, keep her lit. Okay. So, we were talking earlier on about people's perceptions of Tesla, and certainly I felt this when, just before I was getting the car, I was like, oh, Tesla, and driven the Mach-E and the Ioniq 5 and all the rest, and then back into petrol cars, and there is this sort of impression that Teslas are all hype. But I know driving this straight away, and you've had one for 2 years. They actually drive really well.
They do. You know, I'm a reformed petrol head, or whatever the phrase is. You know, I had a couple of Subarus and an E46 M3, so love my cars. You know, but I think this is the car that gives you the closest thing maybe to a petrol head's version of an electric car. It's got the excitement, the handling. You know, it doesn't have the noise. I think is what we mentioned earlier. That's the thing. Maybe it's always going to be missing in an EV. But maybe we're the last generation that's going to miss that.
Yeah, I think it actually handles and drives really well, considering the fact everything's electric power steering and all the rest, which. Yeah. You know, there's only so much feedback that they can give. The steering wheel is actually quite thick and chunky, but I don't really care because it's heated at the moment. But this car actually doesn't weigh as much as I expected. So the standard range plus only weighs about 1650 kilos, something like that.
Yeah, so my car was around 1640, 1650, which is almost identical to a 911 Turbo. Mm-hmm. Not known for being a particularly heavy car. I think modern cars in general are heavier, obviously, but you know, you can have a Model 3 that's well under 2 tons. Yes, this is the bigger battery car, so it is a bit.
It's about 1850 kilos.
Yeah, I think about 150 kilos difference maybe in the big battery cars, but it doesn't feel like it, you know. And I don't know whether the weight has anything to do with it, but I don't think there are many cars that can put down the power like these cars can.
No, the way the car can just deploy. The traction it has.
Traction. Yeah.
Even on a greasy road or a wet road, it never seems to squirm. It's
that electronic traction control, you know, or torque vectoring, or whatever it is. You know, it's always going to be quicker than a mechanical system, and it just seems otherworldly whenever you hit the power on a greasy road.
I don't think in an internal combustion engine you can get that exact level of power control at every wheel. They can do it, but it's sort of artificially done with braking and stuff like that. You know,
exactly.
You know, whereas they're trying to hold the engine back, whereas the electric motors, they can just decide exactly what to give it up front, and it's
immense.
It's by far, and even out of all the dual motor electric cars I've been driving have had great traction anyway, but this by far just trumps them all for the ability just to deploy most of the power most of the time.
Yeah. And
I think if you have two sort of identical, this is about 450 horse, if you had a new M3 or something like that, or even a four-wheel drive one, this 99 times out of 100 is going to get off the line exactly the same, whereas you're just not going to have that level of consistency, even with the most complex launch control system and all the rest. Plus this thing doesn't even need launch control, you just get into it and you put the foot into the carpet and you're gone.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good point you make. You know, not a 60 time in a mechanical vehicle, in an ICE vehicle, especially one maybe with a manual gear change. You know, you're going to be pretty good if you can get that figure every time. Whereas in this car, as you say, it's totally consistent.
Yep.
It's easy. It's simple. You know, people talk about it being a great daily because it can do all these things. You know. If you're lucky enough to have a weekend car or a track car, not many people are, I guess, but I'm sure the roads, even, you know, to drive quickly on a road today is antisocial or near impossible with traffic or whatever anyway.
Well, do you know what? It is a wee bit of a problem because these things are ballistic. You know, there's 2 or 3 cars in front of us at the moment, we're doing 40 miles an hour. You know, if I saw a quarter of a mile gap, you could just whap past them and you would be well on the wrong side of the speed limit, and it wouldn't really feel like anything. You know, the performance is explosive. It's that switch of torque just explodes you at you know, the sort of overtaking range 30 to 70 or 30 to 80 or something like that. It's just
remember the first EV I drove was 2013 whenever the i3 came out, and I went to Bavarian and had a test drive, and that was the one thing that, well, 2 things I came away with. One was this thing about 100% of the torque from 0 RPM.
Yep.
You put your foot down. I think that car was about a 7-second 0 to 60 in 2013, which was like a Mini Cooper or whatever at the time. It seemed pretty fast. The other thing is the regen, this whole one pedal driving thing, where as you get off the throttle, then the car scoops up the energy and puts it back into the battery, so you rarely touch the brakes.
The one pedal driving thing sounds so alien to someone who hasn't done it, but it's so intuitive. Forgetting about the fact it's regen or anything like that. See, for just modulating speed in traffic. So these guys in front of us, okay, I could put the autopilot on, the adaptive cruise, and it would sit behind them at whatever distance. But just I'm slowing down, speeding up, and like you can get right down to nearly zero, and then speed right up. Yeah. And your foot doesn't even have to move that much. It's very easy.
Depending on what your driving settings are, you can go right down to zero. It'll actually come to a complete standstill. Probably can't change it maybe whenever we're driving. But,
I'm glad to have you here because this screen has so many options. Let me talk about some of the options the screen has. But yes, so you're talking about the level of regen we have at the moment.
Yes. So this stopping. Well, you've got creep and roll, which are similar to an automatic car, where as you lift off the brake, the car will start to move forward. Whereas hold was the one that looks like you've selected, is the one that I liked as well. Whereas you come straight up to a red light, for example, you don't need to touch the brakes. The car will come to complete standstill. You get a little grey icon up here with an H in it, and it's on hold, and then you'll hit the brake, gas, and away you go again. So it's very easy to drive in traffic.
Yeah, it's absolutely effortless.
Yeah.
In fact, just the amount of thought process that has to go into driving an EV in general, and the Tesla in particular, it just makes a commute, a long commute or a long run to do something like that. It's just totally effortless.
And the autopilot, funny enough, one of the best things it's good at is in that stop-start traffic. If you're coming down the M1 in the morning and you're bumper to bumper, that sort of speeding up, slowing down at a low speed, it handles really well.
So we're out touring around the roads of County Down here, and we're just going to make our way across to Strangford. I don't know if we're going to get the ferry or not, but we'll head that way anyway. Just following the sat nav. I don't have the voice commands on because you'll be kind of annoyed by the constant interruption. Although it probably mean I would miss less junctions, but even the mapping and all the rest, it's very straightforward. I sort of thought, well, there's no Apple CarPlay. How could it survive? A real first world problem, no Apple CarPlay. But everything's so intuitive. I haven't really thought or felt like I've missed it. It's got Spotify, TuneIn Radio, obviously Bluetooth streaming, and all that stuff. And then all the other stuff you just don't get, other manufacturers don't put in. Quite surprised that there is the web browser in there, which there doesn't seem to be much limitation on when you can use it. And then if you were sitting in traffic reading the news in the web browser, how is the 5.0 gonna consider that? I think that's the road of someone's driveway. So it really seems to me, even the fact that you can put on the cameras whilst you're driving as well. When does this huge screen become a distraction? Obviously, you can't have. It does have Netflix and YouTube, but you can't turn that on.
When you're stopped. Yeah.
But everything else, it seems like you can.
Lots you can. Yeah, it does seem quite unusual. That reversing camera that you mentioned. that is unusual. I don't know any other manufacturers where you can display it.
You stick it on there, we can.
The reversing camera.
If you hit the three dots there, and you should get the dash cam or something, isn't it? Or camera. There you go. Yeah. So we can see the is it a Toyota behind us, but which is.
Yeah. So the view out the back of this isn't wonderful, and it's even poorer, I think, in the Model Y. So maybe there is a reason for it, but yeah, distracted driving is a bit of a thing. But it always sort of fascinated me where quite often you have your phone up on a a holder on the windscreen, and you're not allowed to touch that screen, but you are allowed to touch this screen, or the touch screen in your BMW or whatever it is. It seems quite inconsistent, the rules.
Yeah.
The voice commands have certainly got a lot better in the car. You've got to touch and look down here to change the temperature, for example, but if you just hold your right scroll wheel down and say set temperature to 22 degrees, whatever, that should work.
You press it in,
yes,
and it gives you voice control. I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, just press and hold, it'll beep, and then say set temperature to 22 degrees.
Turn off heated steering wheel.
Steering wheel disabled.
Done.
So that's got better. That started out pretty poor, I would say, but every software iteration that improves. So that's probably a good answer if that can expand even further. You can do more and more there, and less have to look down. But I mean, you see other cars at the minute. We drove the EV6, a Kia EV6 lately, and it had a panel, like a touch panel.
Yes.
But it's no better than a touchscreen.
Similar to the Ioniq 5, yes, and it's haptic rather than physical buttons, yeah.
You still have to look down to see what's what. In fact, the EV6, that panel does dual rule. Mm-hmm. So you have to press a button and the knob changes from a volume to the heater control. So, it is an issue with modern cars. And I also think that some people sometimes get into this car and look at it and think they're getting less value somehow than a BM or an Audi or some more traditional interiors, because it doesn't have loads of buttons. It seems like you're getting shortchanged maybe. But having driven this for a couple of years and then get into some of the more modern EVs with buttons everywhere, it's nearly a shock going the other way now, as well, because this is so simple. The
dash aesthetic of being so clean is fantastic. And in fact, as we're threading our way down this back road, a couple of things worth pointing out. First of all, that I still had some quite tight corners to deal with, and I've just been one pedal driving the whole time. It
feels weird when you actually have to go for the brakes.
Yeah, no, it's so handy. It's so natural.
Yeah, we were talking to someone down in Dublin there. We went down to see them all the way, and he was telling us that they have a Model S in Dublin with the original brake pads in it with 300,000 kilometres on it.
Because of the regen braking?
Because of regen.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Yeah. Now, if I lift off the pedal completely, depending on what mode it's on, is the car applying the pad brakes as well?
I don't think it will unless it's absolutely necessary. Something like our Leaf at home, it does. It's quite inconsistent. The Leaf's got a really funny brake pedal because it feels like the first half of the brake pedal is regen and then the second half is the friction brakes. Mm-hmm. And it gives you this really inconsistent step in the braking, but you don't get that here.
No.
So I would guess
it's completely seamless.
Yeah, not unless you're down to the very single-digit mile per hour, maybe at the end, then the friction brakes come in.
And here's the argument about buttons as well. So, a lot of electric cars have flappy paddles, which is used to set the regen level, like the Ioniq 5 had that. But I haven't looked near the screen here, and I haven't felt like it feels like the system is more intelligent in the Tesla, that it's doing the thinking for me. Now, I don't know if maybe I need to set a level, but certainly. It's one less thing I've had to think about.
Yeah, I think drove both the Ioniq 5 and the EV6 as well, and in both cars I just set the regen to max and left it there. I think
here's a junction, by the way. I haven't touched the brakes at all, and it's taken me right to a standstill. In fact, I don't need to come to a standstill, and it's just so easy just to roll back onto the power, and it's effortless, absolutely effortless.
You're playing with the regen level by lifting off the brake, and your muscle memory soon gets used to that. So if you want to brake more, you get off the gas more. If you want to brake less, obviously you lift off less. So somebody described it as a lawnmower to me. If you got a hydrostatic lawnmower, it's a bit like
ride-on lawnmower with the hydrostatic pedal.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lawnmower, but
yeah. Well, here a lawnmower is a step up from a milk float.
True.
So. Okay, so the other thing we're going to be talking about today as well, so if you're watching the video and want to know more about the Model 3, keep watching, but Mark's part of the EVANI, and we're going to talk about that separately and record that as part of the Sold as Seen podcast. So if you're interested, and we're going to talk about charging infrastructure and the amount of electric cars in Northern Ireland and where you can get them, and the issues people are having, like the fact that there's no supercharger network for Tesla in Northern Ireland, so and even the state of the grid and that side of things. So if you're interested in that, take a look on the Soul to Scene podcast. But back to this car, and it really, we're in an A road now, and the roads opened up, and I found the car fairly comfortable to drive. I do hear suspension noise, so the road's been ripped to pieces here. They've been laying pipes or whatever else. You can feel the suspension is a wee bit noisy, and I think that's just that. They can't get away from that. I had this in I had a 6 Series BM and had a bit of suspension noise that I tried to damp out, but I think that's a weight thing. But I'm still surprised that this car is still 200 or 300 kilos lighter than the SUVs like the Mach-E and all the rest. This front windscreen is fabulous. It's like sitting in a van because it's so the rake of the screen. You can't really see much of the front of the car, but I can see all the road around me. It makes picking up the curbs and all the rest absolutely
it's
so easy to do.
Low bonnet and low dash as well, and no binnacle behind your steering wheel, so the visibility out of the front of the Model 3 is fantastic.
And look at that, it's like just this nipping between the junctions. That's the first time I've had to touch the brakes there, because I did gun it a wee bit, and it wasn't more than maybe half the pedal travel did it get up to the speed limit. It's just absolutely effortless. Great space in these cars as well, a great use of space.
Yeah, so I guess the packaging, a proper ground up EV, not something that's been converted from a nice platform, so everything's pushed that way and that way. There's great space under the bonnet there as well, which, if you look at with a Mach-E out the other day, and you lift the bonnet net and it's full of gubbins, there's no room under there because it's a platform for a piston vehicle as well. The platform share thing doesn't really work because you can repackage the car so much. Yep, so this skateboard, like all modern EVs, batteries in the floor. The motors are incredibly small. You've probably seen them, for the power that they have. They're amazingly small. I think the front's slightly less deep maybe in this car than mine. I think my car was rear-wheel drive as a standard range plus, no front motor, so it had a little bit more. The motors, they're like the size of a football or something like that? They talk about a melon, like a big watermelon sort of, and
that's unbelievable.
That sort of size, but
And it's one per axle?
Yes, so in this car, one per axle, My car was rear only. Yeah. And the standard range plus, as we say, was about 1,650 kilos, 1,640, 1,650, so it wasn't really. I think actually the Volvo in the same class is a few kilos heavier, and that's only maybe 50 kilos off a C-Class or a 3 Series.
And there's that camera coming on again. It's just very, very useful.
Yep.
But so the power distribution is interesting as well. There is a track mode on this car, and you can just go turn the track mode on and select where you want all the drive to go. So you can make that 100% rear-wheel drive, and the car will slide about and move about and be a lot more dynamic than people might expect as well. Like, it is actually quite fun to drive.
Yeah. You have a GT4 and one of the ultimate sports cars out there, and you're spoiled, but for most people,
I am spoiled.
You are spoiled. For most people, if they thought they could take us out on a Sunday for a drive, they would love it. I think you'd agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people who haven't been in an EV before are actually surprised. They're expecting the Tesla to be shoddily built and stuff like that. We're talking about these iterative changes. Yeah. Tesla have taken that on board, and these are the Chinese built cars. They seem, from a panel gap perspective and that sort of,
improvement.
Yeah, to the point where I don't care. It has, there's nothing negative I could say about the build quality or the feel of the car, or the feel of the materials feels premium enough to justify that 60 grand price. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
The seating position's great, and all the basic sort of things I get into this car, do I feel comfortable that, you know, absolutely. And in short order, it's a sign, I think, of a good car. You can get in and feel comfortable to drive it confidently, you know.
I think they are having a bit of trouble shaking that the early days problems that they had on build quality. My car was 2019. It was the first of the UK deliveries, and it had a little bit of panel gap alignment, probably around the front, the headlight, but
around the frog face was slightly
squinty. Yeah, but no, in general, I mean, I didn't have any bother with the car. I found it very reliable. Maintenance is non-existent. I mean, there's no servicing in that 2.5 years, so the running costs are next to nothing. I worked out there 8,000 miles, say you did 8,000 miles a year, which is about average, I think, in Northern Ireland. I'm paying about 7.8p overnight rate on Economy 7 for charging at home. That's a fixed rate that goes in July, and things have gone up. But even if you look at today, you can get it 11 or 12p at night at the moment, and even at that rate, you're talking about 275 quid for your entire year's motoring, 8,000 miles.
For 8,000 miles, that's just, you know, that is fantastic. You know, if you can be, that's where the calculations, we start to compare it to diesel and all the rest. And we'll maybe talk more in the podcast about how the whole salary sacrifice, part of those sorts of things, that makes a massive difference in because these are expensive cars. Let's not beat about the bush. They're all, you know, starting at 35, 40 grand, which, you know, it's a lot of money in anyone's book, you know.
It's a lot of money to outlay, but part of the reason, I know second-hand cars in general are very valuable at the moment, but I sold mine in October because prices were so strong, and you know, it cost me well under 200 quid a month to own, but you know, by the time I was out of it, so yes, they are expensive to buy, but they're also sought after, and they're holding their price extraordinarily well.
Okay, so drive us through whilst we're on the ferry here, Mark, drive us through what we have here on the screen.
Yeah, so most of the car settings are under this icon. This has all changed since my cars. Say this is the version 11, which came out in December. So things like wipers, which are strange. You've got a button here at the end of your stock, and if you press that button, it will pop up the wiper control here.
So it's sort of context and then disappears. I didn't even notice that. Yeah.
So although you don't have wiper controls on here, one push, you're in auto at the moment. You've got off, intermittent, and then you have 3 speeds.
Yeah.
So that's here in the controls, along with your lights and things as well. Mirrors adjustment, you've probably adjusted your mirrors already. You hear a lot of people complaining about the fact that it doesn't have a button to adjust your mirrors or your steering wheel, but how often do you do that? I mean,
it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal, exactly. Bells and steering. So acceleration, sport and chill. Chill just dulls the acceleration. I don't find that good, to be honest. In the Leaf, for example, you've got an eco mode, so you put on eco, but if you need a quick bit of acceleration, there's a button on the floor under the accelerator.
And
like
a kick down button?
Yeah, from all the power, whereas if you chill on this, you don't. You know, if you ever needed that quick...
no, that sounds like something we can just avoid.
Sport. This just weights the steering wheel, electric steering, as you say, so just pretty much, you know, like an easier standard and a firmer setting there. This is the thing we talked about earlier on. Track mode that you mentioned, which allows you to do a bit of drifting, if you know what one does.
Yep.
Charging. So you've got this control here, which allows you to set the limit on what you'd like to charge the car. So you can see daily here, on trip. So to keep the condition of the battery, it's very hard to move. To keep the condition of the battery good, they recommend you sort of charge it up to 90% as a maximum.
Okay.
If you're driving to Cork in the morning and you want to do something else,
you just max it out.
Max that up. Open the charge port, unlock charge port.
See, closing the charge port, you just flick it down, or is
it? You can press it.
It sort of felt like, you know, like old school pushing the CD-ROM drawer closed. Am I going to break this thing off?
Yeah, no, you can just push it down. Autopilot, so you've got to turn some of these things on when you get the car, and they still talk about auto steer being in beta, so you've got to agree to some of those things. So this is where you bounce down on the drive stalk a couple of times and the car drives itself. So I would say it works well.
This is on here. You give this a couple of bang, you get a bong, and away it goes. Yep.
Works well on motorways, dual carriageways. Not so good on sort of A roads, B roads, and particularly frustrating. It's probably the thing that I disliked most about the car was I would quite often use cruise control coming into 30 or 40 just to keep myself down to that speed. Whereas the car complains an awful lot. You know, if it sees a car driving out of a junction hundreds of yards in front of you, it'll quite often leap on the brakes.
It'll panic.
It'll panic. So it's not wonderful around town, to be honest. Locks, so I don't know, you've probably got a card that tells you to give you a card.
I do, yeah.
Yes, but you can set up your phone, so
you can see my phone set up there, yeah.
Yeah, you walk up to the car door unlocks, you get in, you put your foot on the brake pedal, and the car's on.
It's completely seamless.
That's unbelievable.
It's unreal.
To get out, to lock the car, you get out of the car, the radio's going, the lights are on, everything. You walk away, you close the door, and once your phone's out of Bluetooth range, the car locks and turns itself on.
Fantastic.
Lights, there's auto headlights, which hear good and bad things about.
It's amazing the amount of menus we went through already, but a lot of the stuff set and forget.
Yeah, absolutely, and lots of autos everywhere.
Yes.
You know, so. Display, so as the brightness of the display.
It has a dark mode and stuff at night time, so you're not absolutely, because it is a big panel.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of light off it.
Trips.
Yeah.
Is where you can see your energy information. So, is this our current trip? 21 miles, 33 minutes. So this is the average energy consumption. So we're doing roughly 4 miles per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
So if you take that 11p I was talking about on your night rate, or 12p divided by 4, it's costing you 3p a mile to drive this thing.
Which is pretty cheap. A bit of an Excel spreadsheet exercise to work that out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, there's so many ways of measuring this, but this is the one that is most meaningful to me. I think it's like miles per gallon. You know, it's watt hours per mile, so it's pretty similar. Your nav stuff.
Yeah, the nav's excellent. We used it earlier on.
Nav's excellent. If you noticed or not, just go back to the nav here. If you've your home set up, you just simply do that, and that takes you home.
Yeah.
It's obviously not set for your home, but
no, it's set for the dealership. But yeah.
So little touches like that are excellent. Service, owner's manual. Wheel configuration is an interesting one. You change the wheels here. I made the mistake of changing this. I got 20s put in mine, it came with 19s, and coming out of the tire fit in place, I decided to change this on screen, and the car just completely rebooted itself. It sat there for about 2 minutes and I couldn't move it. And
is this to do with pressure settings it expects or something like that? Maybe?
Not sure. It's a strange one, but don't do that unless you're stopped somewhere. So this is the VIN of the vehicle.
Yeah.
You can see some stuff here. So this is one of the things you'll see them talk about in the new Model Y and the 3s as well. That there's now AMD Ryzen processor going into these, which is much faster. If you maybe notice if you launch Netflix or anything, it takes maybe 10 seconds to come up. It's 2 or 3 seconds now with the processor.
I have to say, apart from the theatre type stuff, the Netflix and YouTube, everything is very responsive.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's and then down here, with all the different apps, and there's an absolute stack of stuff. So the theatre is where Netflix and all is. We're just about to come off the ferry here, so we'll maybe go, but you can just see some of the other options. Karaoke, energy. Yeah, look at that. Just the detail it gives you.
So that's an interesting one. So projecting a range, and you can say, over the last 5 miles of my driving, is this, or over the last 30 miles, is this. So instant range as well. Obviously, we're not going anywhere at the moment.
No.
So if you're into spreadsheets, as you say, you'll love this car.
Oh yeah. But that's the other thing. You don't have to look at it. You can just leave everything on auto and just drive it.
Exactly.